Hello everyone, I'm Susan Carew from Worldpeacefull, and I'm going to talk about inspiration today. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to say, but that's usually the case for me in any way. But I'm going to start as I do, and I will continue to do with these videos. I'll start with breathing so that it can connect. This is called centering and grounding. So I'm just going to breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in inspiration. Breathe out love. Breathe in truth. Breathe out any tension. Inspiration. I can tell you definitely I have it every day. I actually had a conversation with a man today. I told him I was a poet. I've written 1,500 poems. And I said I get the inspiration sometimes in the middle of the night. And believe me, I do not want to get up. It takes a lot of this inner feeling, this inner prompting to get me up. And then I put my hands on the keyboard. It's not automatic writing or anything like that, but it's just, I wait for the feeling to come. See, I feel like crying right now. That's how it feels. It's the most beautiful feeling when you feel inspiration. And I might cry, so. The greatest beauty that I have seen from within has always come through inspiration. It connects in a way, see how it comes? It connects in a way that is unbelievably beautiful. And you know it's real because you can see I've got tears coming into my eyes. That's because I'm connecting with it. I'm not sad. It's like, I'll try and describe it. It's like, I don't know, it's actually impossible to describe because I'm not sad. I just feel it's like feeling touched from within. It's so beautiful. It feels very real. It feels very real. Like maybe it's a wordless truth that seems to come up because I'm choosing to connect to this inspiration. Some might call it source. Some might call it life. Some might call it creative. Whatever it is a real feeling. And it's definitely inspired my life. There's no question about it. I mean, I started off, going right back, I started off as a typist. You know, my family saw nothing more than that for me because my mother was a typist and my dad was a printer. My parents were not artistic, although my dad has artistic. He's a poet, actually. That's not true. Dad was a printer, and I think he created through his designs with printing. And yes, he was, but I guess for men it's a little bit harder sometimes in a commercial society to connect with the creative on a consistent basis, unless you really do dedicate your life to an art form. But, you know, what I guess I'm really saying here is that I was sort of shunted down the normal track that females get shunted down from working class families, and that was to be a typist. And I would never have chosen that for myself, no way. I never connected with the female archetype or gender. that as a female I should be a mother, or I should be, working as a secretary in an office for men. I never ever, I never had any thought of what I was to be, in fact. But I knew that that was not me. And I do remember, I worked in 400 companies, as I've mentioned before. Some people might not believe that, but it's true. Over a 9-year period, I was a temp. And I actually counted it up one day and said, how many companies have I worked for? And I worked for just about every industry you can imagine. So I've seen that reality. And I remember being very bored with it. And I remember knowing there was potential within myself, but not knowing how to express it. And I still feel those feelings today, in respect of my own larger work in peace. Sometimes it's very hard to be heard because peace is not a commercial venture. Therefore, unless you're set up in ways in which the world can engage with you, they don't tend to take you too seriously. And in my case, being a clown, even less so. Even though I do have an inner feeling about peace, and there is no doubt I've been led on some journey here. So from all that work that I did, I moved on to university, put myself through university, studied economics and marketing. The marketing was probably more my side because it's a little bit more creative, and I definitely lean towards the creative, but for many years I was in the academic left brain area doing analysis, and I was a very thorough analyst. But I could feel after my 30s, the creative was pulling me, definitely. It's very important to soften. I don't believe in what some may perceive, and has been a strong belief in the world, that softness is weakness. Nothing could be further from the truth. Gentleness is the strength. And I softened through my life. I didn't harden. And we all go through many difficulties and hardships, and we get treated in difficult ways. Society can be harsh at times. People can be judgmental. Career paths can be stunted on the basis of how you're seen. Many of us have to get qualifications in order to apply for certain jobs and have some sort of track record there for many years before others will employ us. So some can fall between the cracks because they don't fit the mould. Many artists, in truth, don't fit the mould. And I've seen some struggle and become quite bitter because they really don't fit in. And it's not their fault. It's just that they're in a system that if you don't keep pace with that system, you would be what they would call unemployable. And that's not such a tragedy, I would say. There's a certain beauty in freedom, from those types of responsibilities. And the artist's way is a way that's endlessly creative and productive. It may not pay much, but it is incredibly fulfilling. And those artists who are deeply inspired are tapping into some sort of universal consciousness when they create. And the beauty about art is that the mind doesn't get in the way. The heart tends to dominate whatever is created. That's why when I tapped into inspiration before, I could feel the tears, because it's the heart that's speaking. It's not the intellect. I'm not blocking feeling, I'm opening to feeling. And when you're open to feeling, you're opening to a higher intelligence, and I would say without doubt, it's a higher intelligence. What I see clearly these days is that anything that joins us is in alignment with truth. Anything that divides us is out of alignment with truth, because we are one. And what that means is that we're the one consciousness, the one energy, the one system.
You only have to look at nature to see that it's all interconnected. It's not operating as separate islands of automation, as we used to call it in manufacturing. Everything is connected. And those who study the environment come to see that there's a lot of communication taking place in the natural world. I mean, I marvel at how whales can talk to each other over, I don't know if it's 1,000 miles or kilometres, but they can actually communicate over very long distances to one another, and there's a love-based society there. The dolphins are the same. Anyone that's owned a pet can see that those pets have connected to them emotionally. So the heart opens when there's love present. And much of the dilemmas we're having on the planet today is that the heart is closing and the head is in control, so to speak. The intellect is trying to work its way through the many dilemmas that we're facing across the planet. But in my perception, the solutions will only come from the heart. The real solutions that are sustainable will come from the heart, because the heart feels for the whole. You know, when you're connecting to this inspiration and this art, you just feel the whole world. You feel everyone as yourself. You feel the great beauty that comes from what's not seen. And I'd say as a poet, I became very good at being able to see what was not seen. The feeling world is like a landscape in itself. It's like walking into a room and you feel the emotional environment all around you. And you're sensing where people are at very quickly. I know in my incredible life experience as a world peace clown, I'd clown, you know, obviously I'm joking around and I'm playing with people, but I'm feeling their energy and I'm feeling their emotions. Because the last thing I want to do is offend anyone. You know, what I'm trying to do is to give them an opportunity to play and to connect with a stranger, giving children a chance to have fun, you know, and see the humanity in each other, which only can be done through creative interactions of, you know, sending love to everyone as a clown by smiling, by laughing, you know, by talking to people and finding out who they are and where they're from. I always find that really fascinating. I love to know where people are from because I'm fascinated by their culture. You know, I don't see my culture as better or worse or theirs as better or worse. I'm just fascinated by the diversity. And so as a clown, creatively, I'm sort of moving through the space with no thought, just an open heart. It's deeply fulfilling. And every now and then I get inspiration to move in this direction or in that direction. Or I feel inspired to say words of love to someone, how beautiful they are. And I'm always honest. I never ever say, you know, you're gorgeous, darling. That's usually what I say, you're gorgeous. I never say that unless it's true. And so far in every case it's been true. Because when you are living from the heart, everything becomes beautiful. And I've often described it as going from the normal life as black and white to the real world, which is full on colour. And when I've looked into the eyes of people, I've seen how beautiful they are. And I do not believe for 1 second it's rose-coloured. I see it as the real world. And I believe the world of thought and conditioning and constraint and shutting down is actually a black and white world that's not natural to us. You only have to look at children to see that they are very open and they'll just go and hug anyone or sit on their lap. Children are fearless. And when you're coming from the heart, when it's open, you become fearless. The true fearlessness is actually love. It doesn't come from having a gun. It doesn't come from beating someone up. That comes from fear. And fear is not strong. What fear is an energy that seeks to attack another, to destroy that other or to scare that other off. And yes, it does take courage to stand up to something you're afraid of. But the bigger picture is if you can approach that situation with unconditional love, if you can see that that other who's being aggressive is actually hurting. I was explaining that to a man today, that, you know, the violence in men, the aggression in men is coming from their pain. And he couldn't connect to it at first because he's not really thought it through. And I said, all violence is a cry for help. And he was sort of looking at the bully sort of idea. But even the person who's bullying is powerless, seeking power because they're afraid of not having power. They feel they're vulnerable, and it's the vulnerability that they're frightened of. They mightn't articulate it or say it. But these are very deep motivations that they may not even have consciously sat down and thought about because they've not stopped to think and feel and reflect on what drives their behaviour. So I explained to him that really love is the greatest strength, because you know, a person who loves will save another. They will stay and they will be with someone who's suffering. Someone with great strength will be there for many people, actually. They're givers. They're often the givers of the world, who are often seen as, you know, the charity people, but they are great, have great strength. I really admire that when I see people serving other people, but in a really beautiful way. They're not doing it so that others will give them accolades, but they're doing it because they truly enjoy doing something for someone else. And this is what brings community together. This is the common unity that we're all dearly wishing for. We're kind of losing it in the West, that sense of community, and yet it's the absolute quintessential essence of family. So if we have the family breaking down, our communities break down. And there's a lot of wounded hearts who have come from families that are split, where they've not felt loved, or they've, you know, one parent's tried to do it all and the other parent's disconnected in some way and they've lost as well. And there'll be pain in that for them. But we're all here to learn about ourselves, and life does throw up challenges. And those challenges, each and every one of you can shoulder. Otherwise it wouldn't be coming to you. And once you overcome the challenge, you'll start to see how strong you really are. This life journey is not an easy one for, I would say, everyone. But it is a beautiful journey. And when you tap into your own inspiration, follow those prompts. When you feel inner urgings to do something that's positive and constructive and kind, don't hesitate. Do it. Love does not spin and get nowhere. I could talk a lot longer about the inspiration of my life. It's been, as I said, a daily occurrence, but I've been all over the world, and I've driven around Australia on the basis of an inspiration, packed my car and you know, grabbed my tent and off I went. Didn't have the money to fix my car if it broke down, but hey, I figured life would support me, and that's how I thought. I've put myself through university. I've inspired to clown in lots of places, you know, refugee camps, HIV clinics, leprosy colonies, even federal parliament. Felt inspired to go there. The inspiration has been what's kept me going in the peace area. I keep getting inspired. It's non-stop, and it's like I have to keep working for peace. Even this video tonight, I felt inspired to make. Otherwise, I'd be watching a video, not making one. But the feeling was so strong that I had to do this video that I thought, okay, well, we'll start doing video blogging. Rather than, I mean, I probably will write poetry, but typically the poetry has been what I've done. I've just sat down and written poetry. But now the feeling is to communicate the essence of love and peace to everybody, and somehow use my experience with that. So I might finish that there and just say to you that Everything you need is within you. What you think you need outside yourself is actually not necessary. The love, the peace, the joy, the security, the happiness, all comes from within you. Now, what governs your ability to connect to that would be your openness, your heart-filled desire to connect to your inner world. And at some point you have to slow down and stop, be with yourself, learn to still your thoughts, make peace with yourself. And for those of you who feel you've done the wrong thing or feel you've failed or feel you have nothing to offer, that your life has been wasted, or you simply look in the mirror and you don't like yourself. Every time you look, you see something you don't like. That's coming from judgment, and that's never true. Whenever you see something in yourself you don't like, say it's a criticism of someone else, just notice the thought process is a criticism, and then start to look at what it is within you that feels to criticize, and what does that mean? Why do you need to put that person down? Why do you need to make them feel less? Is it because you feel less and you want to have some sort of power, want a sense of superiority or whatever it is? So your job is to really look within and root out all negativity from you. Because the trouble with the negativity, if you don't deal with it, you will just keep projecting it from one person to the next. It could be one broken marriage to the next, or one set of friends to the next. Same problem cropping up again and again and again. And that's what happens when you don't deal with problems within, where you've not really fully dealt with your emotions or your beliefs. But going back to the inspiration and the beauty, once you weed your garden and you pull out all those negative weeds, which are never real, and then look in the mirror, you'll see what I see when I'm clowning around. You'll just see how beautiful you really are, and you are. You have everything I have. You are inspiration, you are beauty, you are love, you are truth, you are the greatest light to this world. You can tap into the inspiration anytime you want. Just intend it and ask to live the highest truth. Ask to be the best you can be in your life. If it's happiness you seek, then intend, I am happy. And start noticing all the little things that make you happy. And that's how you rewire your mindset to start to look for the good. Now, once you start to look for the good in the world and in yourself, your whole life will change. So instead of following the media, which can tend to lead us down a track of the world is not a great place, turn it off and start to look at your own life and what is working. If you're breathing, that's a starting point. If you can get up, that's even good. If you're eating, great. Start small, then work your way up and say, well, I did that well. And actually, when I think back over my life, I've actually done that quite well too. You have to start to reprogram the thinking to fall back in love with who you are. Because when you love you, everyone else can love you. Because they can feel that you love yourself. And it's not vanity I'm talking about. I'm just talking about healthy self-love, where you're not self-depreciating, not putting yourself down, but you're actually valuing who you are and the life you're living, because life is precious. When you think about it, we're not here that long. I always remember talking to a woman at a nursing home. She was a nurse. And I said, what did you learn about being a nurse? You know, she was working with dementia patients, actually. And she said, well, I learned a lot from the dementia patients. And I said, well, what did you learn? To seize the moment, she said. She said, I saw many of them going over their regrets of their lives. You know, all the things that they weren't allowed to do or couldn't do, they would go over and over and over and over. And she said if they weren't allowed to swear, they would swear, because in dementia, all those barriers drop. You know, and if they'd had affairs and they were in a strict religious sort of situation, it would all come out that they had those feelings. So she said, seize the moment is the key. Live your life. If you feel to do something, go and do it. Really celebrate who you are and what you're about, because your life really is making a difference. Whether you believe it or not, you make a difference, definitely. There is not one person on this planet who is not making a difference. Everyone does. So I celebrate you. And with that, I will stop now. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to check out the inspiration of my life, go to worldpeacefull.com, and that's www.worldpeacefull.com. And I look forward to hearing from you. Much love.